Mopar Action, Tony Mopar DeFeo, Cars Illustrated, Uncle Tony's Garage. I'm going to chat a little bit here about Cars Illustrated and the spirit of Tony DeFeo, because we're here on lockdown in Seattle because of all this freaking smoke that we have from California, Northern California, and Oregon. And so it gave me a chance to be sedentary involuntarily to a certain extent, and I ran across, for the first time I've ever watched it, was Uncle Tony's Garage. And just to let you know, the first thing I ever did when I got an internet connection back in the 90s and you could Google stuff, is the first thing I ever Googled, whenever it was on, however I Googled it, was in quotes, Tony DeFeo. It's like, what the hell happened to this guy? Because when I was a little street racer back when I was 15 years old, and I built my first street racer, a 72 Vega with a 302 in it, 283, 327 crank, and we got sick and tired of all the Carcraft car shows and all that junk, Hot Rod Magazine and Pro Street and all that stupid stuff, and really liked the ball. Of course, I liked the balls out street racer, low butt cars. We ran across this Cars Illustrated magazine in a 7-Eleven or whatever. And me and my buddies bought it and read it. We're like, what the fuck is this? They're taking, demo cars, which this one is. It's a demo car from Ford Motor Company, a Lincoln 86, 87 Mark something with a 302 in it, which back then was hot. Probably ran a 0 to 60 in like 8 seconds, so it was fast for the day. And it's like, who the hell takes a freaking rental car, not a rental car, a loaner car from the motor pool of the media motor pool, and does a burnout in front of Twin Towers. Yeah, I think it's a peg leg burnout. Looks like it's positive traction, I guess, because of the way the wind's blowing. But anyway, it's like, what the fuck is this shit? So, Cars Illustrated. The spirit of Cars Illustrated, after I grew up, I never really grew up, but after I did a lot of street racing and I had to sell at that time, my big block Challenger to go to engineering school, it was always with me. And one thing that's always been with me is in my rafters, stuck under a pile of whatever, has always been all these old Cars Illustrated magazines. So what I want to do is just flip through the pages of Cars Illustrated and show really the spirit of Mopar Tony DeFeo and just some of the crazy shit that they did. And also a little bit of the lineage, because Cars Illustrated became also, I think it's under CSK Publishing, or I don't know what, Harris Publishing or something like that. Became Mopar. They came out with a Mopar magazine, Mopar High Performance, which later became, I think, or the guys just departed, or I don't know. Went and made a Mopar Action, which Richard Ehrenberg is a key part of that, and all those guys, Cliff Gromer and whoever else, part of that whole group has lineage back to Cars Illustrated. I think Cliff Gromer, if I'm not mistaken, might have been an editor of Popular Mechanics or something like that. I don't know. I don't know much about the magazine business. I don't really give a shit about the magazine business. But, back then, this was the only form of media. And we were West Coast guys, Northern California, and, finding something like this was pretty cool. So let me just thumb through some of the pages here of Cars Illustrated. And one of the things about Cars Illustrated is that I think it got a lot of its soul and attitude from another magazine called Superstock Street, whatever it was called. Well, they had shit like this: emissions, euphoria. They got a guy in there sucking on a tailpipe. That's kind of right there. That's kind of your Cars Illustrated attitude right there. So I dig that shit. And what do I do today? I got 2-stroke motorcycle, 6-cylinder CBM is the end of it. I get ready to build me another big block dart like that one right there. All right, so. You got, of course, you got action shots here. You got your hella tacky garb. I think they had like 3 people advertised in this magazine. It was like, Sandals Vacations and some, whack stuff. But this is an early issue. Anything cool in here? That 1990. Why the hell did they even cover that? Yeah, there's your liquid glass, some snake oil glass bullshit. And then they had a little spin-off magazine, a little poncho magazine. And of course, as everybody knows, what Cars Illustrated became, what Tony became for a while, was the 5.0 Mustang. Never been a Ford guy, but that car is, of course, extraordinarily cool and important for anything related to muscle cars and street racing. But it was just kind of standard fare. You got, articles here. But then you got, this is the cool stuff, right? Bad to the Bone, article about a street racer Roadrunner, I guess. And then you got a full article about street racing. Of course, who wrote the article was Tony DeFeo. I mean, it's like, all right, here we are. And you'll see in here, you'll see in some of these street racing articles, they have the loaner cars from the media pool of the big three. They'll have like a GNX Buick and I think even that Mustang and the Lincoln and whatever. And then they'd also make fun of cars. That's not a car they make fun of. Okay, whole thing about burnouts. Wow, burnouts. And then they'll have reviews of the Carcraft Nationals, and then basic stuff like Power Shifting 101, which is kind of like, you know, the essence of Uncle Tony's Garage. It's basic stuff for noobs on how to do, how to heel and toe and that kind of stuff. All basically based around giving you the basics on how to build a car, race a car, keep a car running, all that kind of stuff. Again, street racing in the Big Apple. I think there he is right there. And I think that's the $1,200 12-second Roadrunner. Look at that. Of course, yeah. That's amazing. That dude's still alive. Of course, we all did stupid shit like that. And then that was my pastime, was actually betting on stuff. Being a statistics major at that point in time in my life. Wagering. And so you got that. And then, of course, just completely 100% badass is the Q-ship Ford, I think it's a four-door, Buick Electra boat running, I don't know, I haven't read this article since I was 16 years old, running like 10s or some shit like that, and actually pulling the wheels off the ground. Neat sleeper stuff like this, all about cars that are just here to win money. You know, because there's one of their loaner cars they're doing a burnout in. Article, some literature, six-pack screamer, typical muscle car coverage, which, you know, their car coverage is good. And the best part about their car coverage is they did stuff that was, there you go, there's a famous picture, I think that one's on the internet, of lapping valves on a 426 ME on his toilet. That right there, that's another thing. That's the spirit of the magazine there. Yeah. So, and then, okay, here's the Carcraft Nationals coverage. The bracket Nationals, of course, we all hated bracket racing back then. And so you got guys wrestling, bikini show, collisions, watermelon eating contest, your typical meathead kind of stuff. And then, yeah, of course, they got to cover that crap. Neat stuff. And then a legendary story when some funny car did a burnout on probably somewhere, Brooklyn, on the back of some boardwalk somewhere. So this is the kind of neat stuff you had. And of course, they covered stuff that was cool at the time. You know, first 200-mile-an-hour Pro Stocker. All kind of course, the Batmobile drag race, the Batmobile road test, which was hella cool. Dorkies, there he is. And then, okay, yeah, and then talk about your East Coast. You got your kids a letter bomb. Hey, don't get a subscription to Cars Illustrated to get a letter bomb in the mail. And there's Richard Huntington, and this Richard Huntington guy, if I'm not mistaken. I forgot what somebody told me a story about him once, but I think he also wrote for this magazine back in the early 70s. But just good articles, good stuff like that. And here you go, you got to put, you got here intake manifold stuff. It's like Buick V6 manifold, actually. Street racing story, stuff like that, rat-a-tat, typical car. Yep, there you go, right here. I think this is another case here. Budget bomber doing something. Was that an Olds or a Buick V6? Starting getting into the Buick V6 stuff because it was legit shit, right? The Buick V6 came out, and look at that, freaking hot street car there. Probably ran 11s. I bet that was fast back then. 11s were always fast. And then a nice article here about a 440 Valiant, kind of a sleeper. Get rid of the hood scoop, and this car probably was like a low 11-second Mopar Smile 440 build. Neat stuff like that. And so all these old Cars Illustrated, if you can get your hands on them or somebody reproduces them or whatever, that'd be awesome. And then when they died, they came out with, or died or retired or whatever happened, the publishing company went out of business, who knows. Then they came out Hot Street Cars, which basically was the same, very similar to Cars Illustrated, covering badass contemporary and street racer type cars. Firebird GTA review. A lot of plastic. There's DeFeo right there. Yep, it looks like him. And then your Hot Street blown I can try to even have that in there. And then Mustang tweaking. What is this? They're how to get a Grand National. Excuse me, to low 13s. I think they put just slicks on a Grand National, and got that sucker into the 12s without a lot of work, without even opening up the intake manifold. And then other just hot cars covered, and so on. Classic muscle car review. Really good stuff here. Your basics for how to run on the strip. And I mean, come on, you got your beater Mustang, something like we all had, on how to make that car work. And I think this article actually might have been written on the West Coast, because Jerry Heasley, who I think was part of these guys, wrote a lot for him. I think he might have been West Coast. I don't know. Going off memories here, just your basic grassroots street racing, not this overblown, overproduced crap. That is West Coast there, because I think that's like San Leandro, Hayward, Fremont area, not too far from Fremont drag strip where I used to do a lot of my racing. I shouldn't say. Oh, yeah, there you go, taking it to the streets, kind of like the beginning, street racing for dummies. This is what goes on. This is what's cool, and this is how you win. And yep, there's the 5.0 Mustang, another 5.0 Mustang. Does that guy look from there? I don't know what's going on there, but just neat stuff. And then, and then your basics, how to freaking line up, how to degree in a timing chain, or the different ways you line up the dots and all those different motors out there. And then the typical, mass market, mass appeal, lowest common denominator, muscle car reviews and stuff like that. And again, more street racing stuff. You never, ever, ever saw anything like this in magazines back then. Even the legendary Auto Buff. Cool bracket car there, not kind of a bracket car, I guess. Just neat stuff. And then Mopar action. I was a Mopar guy, of course. After I got rid of my Vega, I was Mopar or no car to the death. And so you got some of the same characters, I guess, you had from Mopar action. Steven Schneider, who I think was a publisher of the magazine. Cliff Gromer, I think he was a Mopar action editor or something like that for a while. Of course, Crashbox, DeFeo. And then they had a muscle car, which I have a couple of these sitting around somewhere, this muscle car magazine they did. So this is kind of like when muscle cars really started. This was badass too. This is like one of the best articles ever. This is where they found a drag car, Superbird, I guess it is. Is that what it is? Yeah, Superbird. And they took it out. And it was, barn find, before barn finds were something that was, whatever, was something that was, people getting internet shit on it. There's the old guy who owned it. And then, of course, what did they do? They took it out of the shop, they got it running, and they smoked the tires on it. Big old fucking Hemi in it. Badass stuff. Gotta love it. And then, the funny thing is, I don't know who wrote this article. It's got no name on it. But one of the things that caught me on this Uncle Tony deal was a search on YouTube, and it came up with his revelation that the small block Mopar was a legit engine, because he was a big block guy back in the day. But then I see this big giant, how great the small block Mopar is, and of course a lot of discussion about the straight shot out of the exhaust port. No author on this, but I'm guessing it was DeFeo. So that's not a new revelation on his part, probably. Maybe just give him the benefit of the doubt. It's been a lot of years. Shelby smoking the tires, road test, all kinds of stuff like that. And of course, this is badass. I think this is actually an article where he rode in one of the cars, all about the completely 100% dominating Hemi A-bodies, Hurst Hemi A-bodies, and no car has ever been as badass as that, as fierce and as balls out as the Hemi Hurst A-bodies. Completely owned super stock. I mean, come on, something coming from the factory like that to your dealership. Of course, it wasn't road legal. NHTSA existed back then, but NHTSA wouldn't probably call this car legal. Maybe it was, I don't know. It's before my time, but just a really cool article. Probably one of the best articles I've ever read on the Hemi Hurst A-bodies. And, and then your irreverence East Coast Toys in the Attic article about, and the Brunt brothers, Bill Brunt, I know who these guys are, but the Brunt brothers, and out there just playing around some games or toys, whatever it is, advertising stuff. I mean, this is back 1987, I guess, 88, 86, 87, yeah, you're a graduate high school, and just killer stuff. I mean, as far as I'm concerned, all the Mopar actions, hot street and strip cars. A 6-pack article here, article about 6-packs, and those early Mopar high performance magazines. Really, you could have stopped producing any hot Mopar muscle car media at the point these magazines ended. Oh, these prices! Oh my God! Of course, you got to plug in the inflation rate. It's probably the same damn price you pay today, even though shit's made in China or the Far East, as we say. Back to my point was, who's this guy? Collector's Corner. I don't know who that guy is. I'm sure some other people do. As far as I'm concerned, back to my point, Pro Parts headers. Remember those? The killer A-body, big block A-body conversion headers. Had a set of those once. I bought them used, and somebody used Folgers coffee cans to seal up the leaks in the collectors. Oh yeah, the fiberglass stuff. But anyway, tons of fun. C-body stuff. I was a C-body guy for a while. Had a really badass fuselage Imperial. Speaking of fuselage, there's a nice fuselage right there. But back to my point. Oh, there's the Detroit, whatever that thing is, the Detroit Street Racer Killer Pro Street. Taking up Treasures, Himikuda, car show stuff. But back to my point, and this is how I'll end it. I got big block, convertible, dart, probably worth ungodly, stupid amounts of money today. I don't give a shit about show cars. Oh, had a picture rust. But back to my point is, these magazines, there's no reason to ever read anything that ever came after Cars Illustrated, Mopar, High Performance Mopar, because it's all been covered. It's all been covered the way it should be covered. It is, it covers all the basics, all the deep history, and all the tips and tricks that you'll ever need to be a Mopar muscle car dude. And maybe even a Ford 5.0 Fox body guy. Everything else, you could just completely ignore it, which is basically what I've done once you get past these magazines. So, again, that's the spirit of Cars Illustrated. It's good to see that it's still running along after being absent from anywhere in the media for probably 30, 20, 25 years. And it's cool. So I'll post this. I might get 5 people who watch it, and get 1,000 people who will yell at me and bitch at me about it, what I said. But hey, whatever. It's free country at the moment.